Welcome to Science for Sleepy Minds. I am very glad you are here, in whatever quiet corner of the night you have found. If your eyes are already closed, you can let them stay that way. If your thoughts are still moving like little ripples on a pond, you do not need to stop them. You can simply let them pass by and let my voice be something steady in the background. Tonight is not about effort. Tonight is about ease. If the day has been heavy or the mind has been busy, you do not have to carry it all in your hands right now. You can set it down piece by piece without even naming what it is. Just the simple act of lying here is enough. The rest can wait. And if sleep comes quickly, that is completely fine. You do not have to make it to the end. You're allowed to drift away at any moment. Our gentle topic tonight is the quiet science of how our planet breathes. Not breathing like a person with lungs and ribs, but breathing in rhythms and cycles, in the slow exchanges between sky and sea, between leaf and light, between soil and air. The earth is always trading, always moving what it has from one place to another, softly, steadily, as if the whole world is taking a long, patient breath. There is something comforting about that, because a breath is a promise of continuity. In and out, again and again, even when you are not paying attention, even when you are asleep. And in the same way, Earth's gentle breathing continues quietly, whether anyone is watching or not. So there is nothing you need to remember. There is no test waiting at the end. If your mind wants to learn, it can learn. If it wants to rest, it can rest. You can let the facts float by like clouds in a moonlit sky. You can catch one for a moment, feel its shape, and let it go. Before we settle deeper, a very small invitation. If you enjoy these calm explorations, you can like the video or subscribe to Science for Sleepy Minds. And now, you can let that thought fade, like a light dimming down to a softer glow. Let's return to quiet. Allow your attention to come back to the simplest thing you are doing right now. Breathing. Not changing your breath, not forcing it, just noticing it. The coolness or warmth of the air as it comes in. The soft release as it leaves. In and out, as natural as water finding its level. If it helps, you can take one slower breath with me, a gentle inhale as if you are smelling something faint and pleasant, and then a slow exhale as if you are fogging a window. Very softly, without any strain, and then you return to your own rhythm, the one your body knows by heart. Now, little by little, you can let the face soften, the forehead smoothing as if a hand has brushed it lightly, the muscles around the eyes becoming less busy, the jaw unclenching just enough to create a small space between the teeth, the tongue resting comfortably like it has finally found a good spot to settle. Let the shoulders drop, not all at once, but in their own time. Some people carry the whole day there like a heavy coat. You can imagine taking that coat off and hanging it somewhere safe for the night. The chest can soften, the belly can rise and fall without being held in. Your arms can feel heavier, as if gravity has become kinder, more supportive. If you need to shift a little to get more comfortable, you can do that now, a tiny movement, an adjustment of pillow or blanket, like a small bird turning in its nest until the feathers fit just right. And then you rest again and let stillness return. Imagine a gentle warmth spreading through you, like lamplight in a quiet room. Not bright, not sharp. A soft golden pool of light that touches the forehead, the cheeks, the neck, the shoulders. It moves down slowly through the arms to the fingertips. It touches the chest, the back, the belly, the hips. It travels down the legs, to the knees, to the calves, to the feet, and wherever it goes, the muscles loosen, as if they have been given permission to stop working. Now picture a small boat on calm water. No storm, no waves that demand attention, just a steady, slow rise and fall. You do not have to steer. The water holds the boat easily. And your breath can become like that, a gentle rocking motion, up and down, in and out, carried. And as you float there in your own quiet, you can begin to borrow the planet's rhythm, because the Earth has its own steady patterns too. Not loud, not urgent. A long, peaceful exchanging of air and water and energy. A kind of breath that takes place across forests and oceans, across clouds and sunlight, across seasons. In your mind, let's step into a calm scene that fits this idea. Imagine you're somewhere peaceful at night, perhaps on a dark hillside where the ground is cool and firm beneath you, or on a small porch, wrapped in a blanket, with the world outside softened by distance. The air is clean and mild. There may be a faint breeze, so gentle it feels like a quiet thought passing by. You can hear small sounds, the kind that do not disturb sleep, the distant steady chorus of insects, a soft rustle in leaves. Far away, the hush of a town settling down. Nearby, the quiet movement of fabric as you breathe. The subtle sound of your own exhale. Between sounds, there is space, and that space feels seen. As you rest in this imagined place, you notice the air itself, not as emptiness, but as something present, something that touches the skin, that fills the lungs, that carries scents and moisture and warmth. You do not have to understand it yet. You can simply feel that the air has texture, even if it is invisible. It is a gentle presence that moves in and around you. And now, with that same calm attention, you can widen your focus, not in a sudden leap, but in a slow, comfortable opening, like curtains being drawn back just a little. What if you could sense the whole planet as a system of exchange? Not alive like a person, but alive with motion, alive with circulation, with patterns repeating, with cycles turning. The Earth is always moving its ingredients around. Water rises into the sky and returns again. Carbon moves from air to leaf, from leaf to soil, from soil to ocean. Heat flows, winds drift, currents coil through the sea. It is a quiet choreography, and we are nestled inside it. When we say Earth breathes, we are using a gentle shorthand, a way of talking about cycles, about movement and return. It is carbon moving through living things in the air. It is water evaporating, forming clouds and falling as rain. It is oceans absorbing gases at the surface and releasing them again. It is plants taking in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. It is, in a way, the planet's calm conversation with itself. Tonight we'll take a slow tour through these ideas. We will start close to home, with your own breath, and gently expand outward. We will keep it calm and clear, like watching a slow tide come in. And at any point, if you begin to drift, you can let yourself go. You do not have to hold on to every detail. You only need to feel safe. So let's begin with something familiar, your breath. Right now, you are exchanging air with the world. The inhale brings something in. The exhale sends something out. Even without thinking about it, you are participating in a pattern older than memory. Air in, air out. And science, at its heart, often begins with noticing patterns like that. In everyday language, breathing can sound like one thing, but in science it can mean a broader idea. Breathing is exchange. It is the movement of matter and energy across a boundary, between inside and outside, between one place and another. It is a kind of gentle trading. Your lungs are a boundary, the surface of the ocean is a boundary, the skin of a leaf is a boundary, the top layer of soil is a boundary, and across these boundaries invisible molecules move, meeting and parting in quiet ways. If you keep listening, I will introduce a few of these invisible travelers softly, without crowding your mind. You do not have to memorize their names. You can simply let them be characters in the background of a calm story. One of them is oxygen. It is the gas your body uses to help release energy from food. Another is carbon dioxide, which your body makes as it uses that energy and then releases back into the air. There is nitrogen, which makes up most of the air around you, mostly quiet and steady, not very reactive in the way oxygen is. And there is water vapor, the invisible gaseous form of water that drifts through air, shaping humidity and clouds and the feel of the night. The air is not empty. It is full of these tiny travelers, too small to see but real enough to shape the world. They move through forests and cities and oceans, through your room and out into the open night, quietly busy, quietly present. And if you let the image come, you might imagine these molecules as slow, soft lantern light drifting through the world, not racing, not urgent, just moving where they are carried. A gentle flow, a patient wandering. What if the air is not emptiness, but a kind of invisible ocean? What happens if you picture yourself resting at the bottom of that ocean, held by it, safe inside it? Now, to link your familiar breath to the planet's breath, we can begin with a simple truth. Life and air are woven together. Living things change the air changes living things, and the heart of that exchange, one of the quietest miracles on Earth, happens in green places. Think of something small and ordinary. A leaf. Maybe you can picture one in sunlight. The way its veins form delicate lines. The way its surface catches light, sometimes glossy, sometimes matte. Or maybe you picture a houseplant by a window, leaning gently toward the day. Or a garden after rain, when everything looks a little brighter and the air feels full. Now, in that leaf, something steady is happening, something that has been happening for a very long time. Plants use light to do chemistry. They take in carbon dioxide from the air, and they take in water from the soil. With the help of sunlight, they rearrange those ingredients, making sugars they can use to grow and live, and as a result, they release oxygen back into the air. That process is called photosynthesis. It is a big word for a gentle idea, using light to build. You can hold it lightly in your mind. Carbon dioxide and water go in, sunlight helps, sugar is made, oxygen comes out, and you do not have to hold the full equation. You only need the feeling of it, a green inhale, a green making, a green gift back to the air. In the leaf there is a pigment called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is what gives many plants their green colour. It is also one of the ways plants catch light energy. If you like quiet metaphors, you can imagine chlorophyll as a soft light catcher. Like a calm solar blanket laid out in the sun, it gathers what it can, not greedily but steadily. It takes the light's energy and helps turn it into something the plant can store. This is one reason green landscapes feel like more than scenery. They are working, quietly, patiently. When you walk past a tree, it is not just standing there. It is participating in the planet's breathing. And it is not only trees. Grasslands, shrubs, crops, tiny mosses on stones, plants you might never notice. Even in the ocean, far from shore, there are microscopic life forms, like phytoplankton, that also do photosynthesis. They are tiny sun catchers floating in the upper layers of the sea, helping shape the chemistry of the air above. So when we speak gently of Earth's inhale, one part of that image is photosynthesis, the taking in of carbon dioxide, the using of sunlight, the making of sugars, the releasing of oxygen, and if you want a comforting thought to carry, you can remember this. The oxygen you breathe was once shaped by sunlight touching living cells. Light became chemistry. Chemistry became air. Air became breath. And now it is moving through you without effort. It can be calming to realize how many quiet helpers are involved in something as simple as an inhale. Now let's keep our pace slow. Let's not rush, because the planet does not rush either. It moves in cycles, and cycles have time. For a moment, return to your own breath again. Feel the rise of the inhale. Feel the release of the exhale. There is a gentle symmetry there, and it can remind us of another truth. Breathing is not only taking in, it is also letting go. In the living world, there is an inhale-like process, and there is an exhale-like process. Photosynthesis is one side of the exchange, the other side is respiration. Respiration is a word that can mean breathing in the everyday sense, but in biology it often means something happening inside cells. Cellular respiration is how living things, including you, release energy from food. In simple terms, cells use oxygen to help break down sugars, and they release carbon dioxide and water as byproducts. It is the paying back side of the cycle. You can imagine it like this. Photosynthesis stores sunlight energy by building sugars. Respiration releases that stored energy so life can do what it does, quietly and continuously. Grow, repair, move, maintain warmth, think, dream. Animals do this, of course, every moment, but plants do it too, even plants. In their own way, use oxygen and release carbon dioxide as they access energy from the sugars they made. And they do this day and night. During daylight, many plants are doing photosynthesis strongly, taking in carbon dioxide, releasing oxygen. At night, photosynthesis pauses without sunlight, but respiration continues because living cells still need energy. None of this needs to feel complicated. You can let it be like a tide. In light, there is building. In darkness, there is using. And beneath it all, there is always exchange. If you've ever watched a candle flame, you might remember how it quietly consumes oxygen and releases carbon dioxide and water vapor. Life is not a flame, and this is not a perfect comparison, but there is a gentle similarity in the idea of using oxygen as part of releasing energy. The difference is that life is careful, life is regulated. Life is slow and steady when it is healthy, like you resting now. Now there is another form of the planet's exhale that we can hold with tenderness. Decomposition. This is a word that can sound harsh, but it does not need to be. We will keep it soft. Think of fallen leaves on the ground, slowly turning crisp, then soft, then becoming part of the soil. Think of a log in a forest gradually becoming a home for moss and fungi, and then, over time, returning to earth. This is not something to fear. It is recycling. It is nature's gentle housekeeping. When living things die, their matter does not vanish, it changes form. It is taken apart and reused. Microbes and fungi and small creatures help break down complex materials, returning nutrients to the soil. In the process, carbon that was stored in living tissue can return to the air as carbon dioxide through the breathing of decomposers and the chemistry of breakdown. And so in a calm sense, decomposition is part of the planet's exhale. Not a dramatic release, but a slow return, a giving back. At this point you can begin to sense a balance forming. Earth's inhale and Earth's exhale. Photosynthesis taking in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. Respiration and decomposition using oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. Inhale and exhale, not in a single organism but across an entire planet. across countless living things, each doing their small part. It can be comforting to realize that even endings are part of nourishment. In nature, nothing is wasted for long. The fallen leaf becomes soil. The soil feeds roots. The roots support new leaves. And the cycle continues. If your mind is getting a little too alert, you can soften it by returning to the imagery. Imagine walking through a quiet forest path at dusk. The air is cool. The leaves overhead are dark shapes against a fading sky. You can almost feel the exchange happening, the forest breathing with you in its own way. The plants and the soil and the tiny unseen workers all trading molecules with the air, slowly, steadily, like a calm communal breath. And if the mind wants to ask questions, it can do so gently. What happens if you think of the planet as a place of constant return? What happens if you imagine your own exhale joining a much larger flow, not lost, not wasted, simply moving onward? You do not need to answer. You can let the questions drift like a feather on water. Let's pause for a moment and make space. Feel your bed supporting you. Feel the blanket's weight, the way it holds you down in a comforting way. Feel the breath happening without your help. You're safe. You're allowed to be quiet. Now, in the next steps of our slow journey, we will eventually widen out into longer rhythms like seasonal pulses and the water cycle. But for now, it is enough to rest in this simple exchange, in and out, building and releasing, taking and returning. You can think of Earth's breathing as the soft whisper of chemistry and life meeting each other, again and again. Not a rush, not a demand, a rhythm. And as you listen, if your attention wanders, that is normal. Let it wander. If it fades, let it fade. The words can become background, like the distant sound of waves. The science will still be here, but your rest matters more. So take another gentle breath just as you are. In softly, out slowly, and somewhere beyond your room, beyond your roof, beyond the streets and trees, the planet continues its quiet exchange. Green places catching light, living cells releasing energy, oceans and skies trading invisible travelers. Nothing dramatic, nothing urgent, just the steady, patient breath of a world that has been practicing for a very long time. And you right now get to rest inside that steadiness. If you're still awake, you can stay exactly as you are. There is no need to adjust anything unless your body quietly asks for it. No need to chase the words either. You can let them come to you like a slow tide reaching the shore. And if sleep has already started to pull you gently downward, that is welcome. You can drift at any point. You are safe to let go. Just notice your breath for a moment, the way it arrives without being invited and leave without being pushed. In and out, like a small dependable rhythm in the dark. A moment ago we began with the simplest exchange, your own breathing, and then the planet's breathing in the form of photosynthesis and respiration. The green inhale, the returning exhale, light turning into sugar, sugar turning into energy, energy turning into warmth and movement and life, and then the byproducts drifting back into the air again. Now let's widen our view, gently, like stepping back from a single candle to see the whole room. Because one of the most soothing things about Earth's breathing is that it has tempo. It has patterns you can almost feel, even if you can't see the molecules themselves. Some rhythms are daily, like sunlight moving across a leaf. Some are seasonal, like the slow changing of trees. Some are so long that they are measured in ages, like stone becoming sand and sand becoming rock again. We will move slowly, one calm step at a time. Imagine again that quiet night place, the hillside or the porch, the blanket around your shoulders, the air cool and mild. Above you the sky is wide, the stars steady. And even though it looks still, you know it isn't. Wind is moving, moisture is drifting, the atmosphere is alive with gentle motion, like an ocean you cannot see. When scientists talk about the planet's breathing, they sometimes mean something very specific. The way carbon dioxide in the atmosphere rises and falls through the year. It is a pattern so consistent that you can almost think of it as a heartbeat, or a slow breath. This doesn't require you to picture anything alarming. It's simply a seasonal pulse, a calm record of life responding to light and temperature. To understand it, you can begin with something familiar. Seasons. Think of the way the year changes without needing your permission. Days lengthen and shorten, the angle of sunlight shifts. In many places, spring arrives like a soft green sigh, and autumn arrives like a warm amber exhale. Even if you live somewhere with less dramatic seasons, you still feel the subtle tilt of time, the hotter weeks, the cooler ones, the way the air's texture changes. Now picture a landscape in spring. After winter's pause, plants begin waking into growth. Buds open, leaves widen like little hands, grass becomes brighter, fields and forests begin to drink in sunlight, and with that growth comes photosynthesis, taking carbon dioxide out of the air as plants build their tissues and store energy. In autumn, the opposite shift begins. Leaves change colour and let go. Photosynthesis slows as days shorten. Many plants rest, and respiration and decomposition continue, quietly returning carbon dioxide to the air. So in a broad sense, you can imagine the planet taking a deeper green inhale during the growing season, and a gentler exhale during the resting season. It becomes especially noticeable in the northern hemisphere, because there is more land there, and a great deal of forest. Huge stretches of trees and soils and growing plants that collectively take in and release carbon in seasonal rhythms. It's like having a large set of lungs on one side of the planet, not literally, not anatomically, but in the sense of scale and influence. Scientists can measure this seasonal pulse by sampling the air and tracking carbon dioxide levels over time. And what they see is a pattern that rises and falls each year, like a slow breath drawn on a graph. When plants are actively growing, the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere tends to dip. When growth slows, it tends to rise again. If you like, you can picture that pattern as a gentle wave. Not a sharp spike, not a jagged line. A slow swell and retreat. A calm reminder that life is participating in the air. All the time. And for your sleepy mind, it can be enough to feel the poetry of it. The idea that the planet has a seasonal inhale you can almost see if you know where to look. Even if you never look at a graph, you've already felt it in your own senses, in the smell of leaves, in the crispness of cold air, in the soft heaviness of summer heat, in the hush that winter brings. Maybe you have noticed how the air smells different after rain, or how it feels thinner and cleaner on a cold morning, or how a forest seems to hold a certain coolness even on a warm day. These are not carbon dioxide measurements, not in a strict sense, but they are reminders. The air has character, and the living world shapes it. You might ask very gently, what other rhythms are happening above you right now, quietly, without announcement? Winds moving in wide arcs, moisture drifting into clouds, tiny exchanges happening at the surface of leaves and soil. The night sky looks still, but the atmosphere is never truly motionless. It's a soft, continuous stirring. If your mind begins to wander, you can let it. If you fall asleep in the middle of this thought, that's fine. The seasonal pulse will still be there. the planet will still be breathing. Now, from those yearly rhythms, we can move to another kind of breath. One you felt close to your skin many times, perhaps even today. The water breath. Start with a small comforting image. A kettle on a stove releasing a thin plume of steam. A warm shower where the bathroom air becomes misty and soft. A cup of tea that sends a faint warmth upward into the room. Or a morning window lightly fogged by the difference between warm indoor air and cool outdoor air. These are simple signs of water's ability to change form. Water can be liquid, the kind you pour and drink. It can be solid, like ice. And it can be gas, water vapor, invisible in the air but very real. The movement between these forms is one of Earth's gentlest cycles. Evaporation is when liquid water becomes water vapor. It happens when water molecules at the surface gain enough energy to slip away into the air. This can happen from oceans, lakes, rivers, wet soil, even the damp surface of your skin. It doesn't need to be boiling to evaporate. It can happen quietly at ordinary temperatures all day long. Condensation is the reverse. It's when water vapor in the air returns to liquid water. It happens when the air cools and can no longer hold as much moisture. Water molecules gather together, forming tiny droplets. This is how clouds form, and also how dew forms on grass, and how fog appears in valleys. So the water cycle is a gentle shape-shifting. Liquid to vapor, vapor to cloud, cloud to rain, rising and falling. And if we're using our soft metaphor of breathing, you can imagine evaporation as a kind of upward exhale. Water lifting into the sky, and you can imagine rain and snow as the returning inhale, falling back down to the land and sea, over and over again, without hurry. There is another quiet part of this water breath that lives in green places: transpiration. Transpiration is when plants release water vapor into the air through tiny openings in their leaves called stomata. The word stomata can sound technical, but you can picture them simply as tiny adjustable pores. They open and close to manage gas exchange and water loss. Through them, leaves take in carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, and through them water vapor escapes. This water vapor loss is not just a leak. It is part of how plants move water up from roots to leaves. It can also cool the plant, a bit like the way sweating cools your skin. It is a quiet, natural air conditioning powered by sunlight and the physics of evaporation. In a forest, transpiration can be enormous. Trees draw water up from the soil and release it into the air, contributing to humidity and cloud formation. The forest is not only breathing carbon dioxide and oxygen in our earlier sense, it is also breathing water into the sky. This is one reason forests can feel like they create their own atmosphere. The air can feel cooler, moister, more alive. When you walk under a canopy, you're not only walking in shade, you're walking in a place where water is cycling through leaves and air, moment by moment. Now let your mind picture clouds, because clouds are one of the gentlest visuals we have to know. Imagine a cloud as a patient reservoir, a soft gathering of tiny droplets, so small they can float. Not heavy yet, not ready to fall, just drifting, carried by winds you cannot see. Clouds can be thin and wispy like brushed silk, or they can be thick and cottony like piles of soft fabric. They can spread out in flat layers like a blanket. They can rise tall in the afternoon like quiet mountains made of vapor and light. And all of them are part of this breath. Water lifted up, water gathered, water returned. If you are lying in bed, you can imagine the sky above you doing that slow motion. Even at night, even in darkness, moisture is still moving. Clouds are still forming and dissolving. The water breath continues. And it can be soothing to remember that the air above you is not a hard boundary. It is a fluid space full of tiny travelers, water vapor drifting, droplets, gathering, rain returning. Now, to keep this restful, we won't sink into too many numbers or details. We will keep it as a calm picture. The world is always drinking water into the sky, and the sky is always giving it back. If your body wants to relax deeper, you can let the breath in your chest grow a little slower. Not forced, just allowed. You can imagine that with each exhale, you're releasing a little tension into the air, and with each inhale, you're drawing in a little calm. Now, from the water cycle, we can drift toward the ocean, because the ocean is one of the planet's great quiet managers. It holds heat, it holds water, it holds dissolved gases. It moves slowly, but it moves with immense influence. Let's begin with a familiar ocean scene. You're standing near the sea. It could be daytime or night. The important thing is the feeling, the sound of waves arriving and retreating, the salt in the air, the wide openness of the horizon, which makes your thoughts feel smaller in a good way. Even if you have not been to the ocean in a long time, you probably know the idea of it, the steady repetition, the predictable motion. It never feels rushed, even when it is powerful. Now, the surface of the ocean is a boundary, like the surface of your lungs. It is where exchange happens. Gases in the air can dissolve into seawater, and gases in seawater can move out into the air. This depends on pressure, temperature, pressure, wind, warmth, and the chemistry of the water. But you do not need the complicated version tonight. You only need the gentle fact. The ocean and the atmosphere are in conversation. Carbon dioxide, for example, can dissolve into the ocean. So can oxygen. At the surface, you can imagine a quiet trading molecule by molecule. Wind ruffles the surface, mixing the top layer, encouraging exchange. In some places, cold water can absorb more gas, and warm water can release more. The ocean breathes with the sky in this way, slowly and continually. When we speak of the ocean's inhale, we can mean this absorption, the taking in of carbon dioxide and heat. The way seawater acts as a vast reservoir, smoothing out changes across time, like a giant calm hand on the planet's forehead. But the ocean is not only a surface, it has depth, and within that depth, water moves. Ocean currents are the slow rivers of the sea. Some are driven by wind at the surface. Some are driven by differences in temperature and saltiness which affect density. Denser water sinks, less dense water rises. And over time, this creates a circulation that can carry water around the world. If you like soft metaphors, you can think of this mixing as lung-like, not because the ocean is a lung, but because it circulates and exchanges, drawing some things down and bringing other things up, a slow rolling breath of water itself, linking surface and depth. And within the sunlit upper layer of the ocean lives another kind of green inhale, phytoplankton. These are tiny organisms, many of them microscopic, floating near the surface where light can reach. They use sunlight to do photosynthesis, just like plants on land. They take in carbon dioxide and make sugars and release oxygen. They form the base of many ocean food webs, and they also influence the chemistry of the atmosphere. If you imagine the ocean at night, it looks dark and quiet. But in daylight, in the top layer, there is an invisible meadow of floating life, catching light. A calm planet-scale quilt, not only on land, but at sea. And here is a gentle thought that can make the world feel larger and kinder. Most of Earth's surface is ocean. That means much of the planet's breathing happens in places we rarely walk. There is a whole world of exchange out there, miles from shore, undramatic and steady, carried out by tiny drifting beings and by the chemistry of water meeting air. It is like the planet has many ways to breathe at once: forest breath, ocean breath, cloud breath, soil breath. If your mind is still with me, you can let that idea settle like a stone into a quiet pond, making a small ripple and then becoming still. And if your mind is not with me, if it has wandered off into the dream fragments, that is fine too. You can drift. There is no wrong way to listen to sleepy science. Now, from the ocean's breath, we can move to something that seems even quieter. Something that feels almost like the opposite of breathing because it looks so still. A stone. Imagine holding a small stone in your hand, cool and smooth or rough and grainy. It feels solid, reliable. It does not pulse. It does not obviously change. It does not seem to inhale or exhale, and yet even stone participates in Earth's long breath. This is where we begin to move into deep time, but we will do it gently, as if we are walking into a wide, empty library where nothing has to be rushed. Rocks take part in cycles through weathering, erosion, and the formation of sediments. Weathering is the slow breaking down of rocks at Earth's surface by wind, water, temperature changes, and chemical reactions. Over long periods, rock can become particles. Particles can be carried by rivers. They can settle in layers. Over even longer time, layers can turn back into rock under pressure. In this slow turning, carbon can be stored and moved. Some carbon ends up locked in certain kinds of rock, like limestone, formed in part from the remains of marine organisms and chemical processes in seawater. Over vast timescales, carbon can be moved from the atmosphere into oceans and sediments and rocks, and then returned again. This is not the kind of cycle you feel day to day. It is not the kind that changes your immediate weather. It is one of the planet's deepest, slowest exchanges, a breath stretched across ages. And then there are volcanoes, which are part of Earth's deep conversation with the surface. Volcanoes can sound dramatic, but we can hold them calmly tonight. Think of them not as spectacle, but as geology doing what it does. Deep inside Earth, heat and pressure move materials. Sometimes pathways open to the surface, and when gases that were trapped inside Earth are released, they can enter the atmosphere. Volcanic activity can release carbon dioxide and other gases. Over long time scales, this is one way carbon returns from Earth's interior back into the air. Again, not as a sudden breath you can time with a clock, but as part of a deep planetary exchange. So when we speak of Earth's long breath, we are speaking of the carbon cycle that includes stone and sea and air and life. Carbon moving slowly among reservoirs, atmosphere, ocean, living things, soils, rocks, and Earth's interior. If that sounds like a lot, you do not need to hold the whole map. In fact, it may be better for sleep if you hold only one gentle phrase. Even stone has a story, and it tells it slowly. You can let that line rest in the mind like a lullaby. Stone telling stories. Not in words, but in layers, in textures, in time. And now, because deep time can make the mind feel floaty, it may be a good moment to return to the most personal anchor you have, your own breath. Feel the inhale, quietly arriving. Feel the exhale, quietly leaving. You're here. You're safe. You do not have to travel anywhere with your thoughts unless you want to. Everything we have explored so far is part of the planet's gentle breathing, the familiar exchange of gases through life, the seasonal pulse of carbon dioxide rising and falling, the water cycle lifting and returning, the ocean's surface trading gases with the air above, the deep, slow carbon movement through rocks and Earth's interior. And if you notice, none of it requires urgency. These are rhythms, not alarms. Their very nature is repetition. Cycle, return. So if you are still awake, you can let your mind soften around that. And if you are beginning to fall asleep, you can let the words become softer and softer, like distant surf. In a moment, we will begin to connect these cycles more closely to your everyday life and to the wider universe. But for now, you can rest in the image of a breathing planet, calm and steady, holding you as you drift. Take one more gentle breath if you like. In, smoothly, out, slowly, and let the night keep you. If you're still awake, you can let yourself be exactly as you are. Nothing needs to be solved tonight. Nothing needs to be improved. You can simply be here in the quiet, with your breathing moving in its own steady way. And if you've already drifted in and out a little, that's normal. You can come back softly, like returning to a familiar room with dim lights, where everything is gentle and safe. Feel the weight of your body on the bed. Feel how the mattress holds you, how the blanket rests on you. Notice the small, dependable motion of your breath, in and out, like a quiet candlelight flicker, steady and calm. We've been traveling through the ways the planet breathes, from the green inhale of photosynthesis to the returning exhale of respiration and decomposition. We widened into the seasonal pulse, the water cycle, the ocean surface exchange, and the long, slow breath of rocks and deep time. Now we can let these ideas come a little closer to you, not in a demanding way, not in a way that brings you back into daytime busyness, but in a way that feels warm and familiar. Because the planet's breathing is not only something out there, it is tucked into your ordinary life, quietly present in the simplest routines. Think of how your day begins, or ends. You breathe without thinking, inhaling air that has been through forests and oceans and clouds, that has been shaped by sunlight and leaf chemistry, that has been stirred by winds around the planet. That is not a dramatic thought if you hold it gently. It can be comforting. It means you're not separate from the world's rhythms, you're inside them. When you drink a glass of water, even if it comes from a tap, that water has its own history. It may have been rain once, falling into a river or reservoir. It may have seeped through soil, filtered by stone and sand. It may have travelled through pipes, but long before that, it was part of clouds and mist and ocean surface. Water cycles through time, and you are part of its brief resting place. When you eat a simple meal, you're receiving energy that came from sunlight. Even if the food travelled far to reach you, even if it was processed, its deepest origin is still light captured by plants or by the plants that fed animals. Photosynthesis is the quiet beginning of many food chains, and your energy, even the energy that keeps you breathing in the dark, is connected to that green inhale. And if you have ever cared for a plant, even a small one, you've participated directly in these exchanges. A plant on a windowsill, a herb on a balcony, a tree in a yard. When you water it, you are nourishing transpiration and growth. When you open a window, you're letting indoor air mix with outdoor air, a small echo of the planet's larger mixing. Sometimes if you have ever sat in a room with a plant and noticed the air feeling just a little different, it's not your imagination that the space feels alive. Plants exchange gases and water vapor. A single plant won't transform a room into a forest, but it can remind you of the quiet truth. The air is active, the air is shared. Even humidity, the feel of moisture in the air, can be a tiny intimate connection to the water breath. On a dry night, the air can feel crisp, almost light. On a humid night, it can feel soft and thick, like the atmosphere is wearing a gentle shawl. That difference is water vapor, invisible, drifted from oceans and lakes, released from leaves, carried by winds. If you've ever watched fog creep in, that is the water cycle brushing right up against your senses. Fog is simply a cloud at ground level, tiny droplets suspended in air. It can feel quiet, muffling sounds, making the world calmer. and it forms through the same gentle physics that makes clouds, cooling air, condensation, water returning to visible form. All of these everyday moments are small doors into the larger idea. The planet's breathing is not a distant concept. It is the backdrop of your daily life, even when you don't notice it. And you do not need to remember any of this. You can simply let it be a soft comfort, like knowing there is a steady heartbeat in another room, a sign that life is continuing quietly. Now, if you let your imagination drift outward again, you can picture the natural world as a set of breathing communities, not just individual organisms, but whole ecosystems exchanging and cooperating, even without intention, even without awareness in the human sense. Imagine a forest, but not as a single thing. Imagine it as a neighborhood. Trees stand like tall residents, their leaves catching light during the day, their roots reaching into earth. Underneath them, smaller plants fill gaps. Shrubs, ferns, mosses. On and in the soil, countless fungi form thin threads, weaving through dark spaces like delicate lace. Insects move through leaf litter. Microbes, too small to see, work constantly, breaking down and rebuilding. In this neighborhood, the air itself is part of the community. Leaves take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen. Soil organisms and roots release carbon dioxide through respiration. Water moves upward in trunks and stems and outward through leaves as vapor. In the canopy, the air may be cooler and moister than beyond the forest edge. The forest shapes its own environment, not by choice, but by the natural consequences of living processes. And in a quiet way, this can feel like a shared breathing, not synchronized like a choir, but layered like many instruments playing a slow, gentle song. If you shift to a wetland in your mind, the breathing changes texture. Wetlands are places where water and land meet, where soil stays saturated, where plants grow with their feet in water. They can feel hushed, even in daylight. The air can be heavy with moisture. The ground can be soft in wetlands. The chemistry of the soil can change because of low oxygen in waterlogged ground. Different kinds of microbes thrive, different gases can be produced. The wetland becomes its own breathing world, with exchanges tuned to its watery conditions. The details can be complex, but you can hold the simplest truth. Different landscapes breathe differently. Grasslands, too, have their own quiet style of breathing. A broad field of grasses may look simple, but beneath it is a dense network of roots. Those roots feed the soil and shape it. Grasslands can store carbon in their soils, a kind of long-term holding, while the grasses above ground rise and fall with seasons. The breadth of a grassland is low and wide, close to the earth, responsive to rain and sun. And then there is the ocean, breathing in its own vast way, not in a single rhythm but in many. At the surface, waves and wind encourage exchange. In the sunlit layer, phytoplankton catch light and shape carbon and oxygen. In deeper water, organic matter sinks and is transformed, and currents slowly carry water around the globe. Each ecosystem is like a different room in the planet's house. Each room has its own atmosphere, its own patterns of exchange, but the doors between rooms are always open because air and water circulate. The planet is not sealed into little boxes, it is connected. And if you listen for comfort, one of the sweetest comforts in science is the reminder that connection does not require effort. The world does not connect because it tries. It connects because it is. Even now, while you rest, you are part of that. Your breath joins the atmosphere. The carbon dioxide you exhale may mix into air that passes over the trees tomorrow, or over ocean next week, or over distant mountains in a month. You do not have to track it. You can simply know that it becomes part of a larger flow. And this is where a quiet wow can arrive, not as a jolt, but as a warm glow. Consider one single carbon atom, just one, in a molecule of carbon dioxide. That carbon atom might have been in the air yesterday. Before that, it might have been dissolved in the ocean. Before that, it might have been in a shell of a tiny marine organism long ago. Before that, it might have been locked in stone. In the future, it might be absorbed by a leaf in spring, or become part of a sugar molecule, or a tree ring, or a grain of rice, or a blade of grass, or a cell in an animal. It might return again to the air through respiration or decomposition. This isn't a story that happens quickly, not always. Sometimes it happens over minutes, sometimes over years, sometimes over centuries. But the point is gentle and reassuring. Matter moves. It circulates. It returns. So when you breathe, you are not just exchanging with the air in your room. You are participating in an ancient loop. You are part of a patient cycle that has been turning since long before you were born. If your mind feels anxious, sometimes it helps to lean into the steadiness of that. You do not have to hold the world up. The world is already moving in a stable rhythm. It has rules, it has cycles, it has patterns that repeat, and you, tired as you may feel, are allowed to rest inside that. Now, let's zoom outward again very slowly toward the larger universe. It might sound strange to connect Earth's breathing to space, but there is a calm way to do it. Not with drama, not with fear, but with quiet perspective. From far away, Earth is a small sphere wrapped in a thin envelope of atmosphere. That atmosphere is delicate compared to the planet's size, more like a skin than a shell, and yet it is enough. It holds the gases life needs. It holds water vapor. It circulates heat. It carries clouds. It protects and moderates. Not every planet we know has such an active, life-linked atmosphere. Some worlds are airless. Some have thick atmospheres made of different gases. Some are too hot, too cold, too dry, too stripped by solar wind. When scientists search for signs of life elsewhere, one thing they often consider is atmosphere, because atmospheres tell stories. An atmosphere is like a signature, a record of what is happening on a planet's surface and within it. If a planet has certain gases, it suggests certain processes. Volcanic gases hint at geology. Water vapor hints at water cycling. Oxygen, in large amounts, can hint at biological activity, because oxygen is reactive and tends to combine with other materials unless something is constantly replenishing it. Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere is, in that sense, an ongoing result of life's work over immense time. Photosynthesis has been releasing oxygen for a very long time, and the balance between oxygen sources and sinks has shaped the air we live in. The details are a whole deep field of science, but for our sleepy purposes, the calming idea is simple. Life and air have been shaping each other for ages, and the result is the breathable atmosphere that cradles you now. Scientists study atmospheres in careful, quiet ways. They use satellites that look down on Earth and measure gases and heat. They use instruments on mountains and in remote locations to sample air. They use light itself, splitting it into spectra to see the fingerprints of different molecules. It is like listening to a planet's quiet music, not with ears, but with tools that translate invisible patterns into meaning. And there is something profoundly gentle about that. Humans, small and curious, building delicate instruments to understand something as endless as the sky. Not to conquer it, but to listen. If your mind enjoys soft wonder, you might imagine as a scientist in a quiet observatory, not under bright lights, but under the hush of night. Collecting data like someone collecting raindrops. Each measurement a small bead of understanding. each graph a quiet story of cycles and rhythms, and still, even with all that knowledge, the Earth remains a place you can simply breathe in. You do not need to know everything about the atmosphere to be held by it. You can rest under it like a blanket you do not have to weave yourself. Now, bring your focus back toward the natural world again, because we can connect this cosmic view to something tender and immediate. Your breath right now is a meeting place. It is where you and the world touch. On your inhale, the world enters you. On your exhale, you return something to the world. It is the simplest exchange, and it is also a symbol of belonging. If you have ever felt lonely or separate or untethered, the breath can be a quiet remedy, because it is proof that you are always in relationship with what surrounds you. You cannot be entirely separate as long as you breathe. The air is a shared substance. It is communal. It is a soft, invisible bridge between all living things, and this brings another gentle wow that you do not have to chase. Some of the atoms in the air you breathe have been breathed before, not in a spooky way, just in a physical, ordinary way. The atmosphere mixes. Over time, molecules spread around the planet. The air is stirred by winds and storms and convection and circulation. It is not sealed into personal bubbles forever. So the oxygen you inhale might once have drifted through a forest. It might once have been released by phytoplankton near the ocean's surface. The water molecules in the moisture of your breath may have been part of a cloud. The carbon in your exhale may one day be part of a leaf. This is not something you need to calculate. It is simply a comforting sense of continuity. The world is not made of separate fragments. It is made of flows. And because flows can feel like movement, and movement can sometimes feel like anxiety, it helps to remember that these flows are gentle. They are not rushing to a deadline. They are not demanding you keep up. They are happening whether or not you think about them. Now, if you are still listening, you might wonder very softly what it looks like when we zoom out even more to see the planet as a whole breathing system. You could picture Earth as a sphere, half in sunlight, half in night, turning slowly. On the daylight side, photosynthesis is active in green regions and in the sunlit ocean. Water is evaporating from warm surfaces. Warm air is rising and moving. On the night side, photosynthesis has paused, but respiration continues. The land cools. Some water condenses into dew or fog. Winds carry air across boundaries. The planet turns, and these processes shift gradually around the globe. It is never all day, never all night. It is always a blend, a moving boundary called the terminator line, where day meets night. Even that is a kind of rhythm, a slow inhale of light, a slow exhale into darkness, repeating every 24 hours. And layered over that daily rhythm are the seasonal rhythms, and layered over those are the deeper slow rhythms of ocean and rock. It can be almost hypnotic to imagine the planet as a set of nested cycles, like a set of gentle waves moving through each other, without conflict. Small waves on big waves, day within season, season within climate patterns, life within geology. If your mind finds that too abstract, you can bring it back down to the simplest version. Leaves and light, waves and wind, clouds and rain, breaths in a sleeping room. Now, to keep you grounded, let's return to your body again, because it is time for a small settling. Notice your shoulders. If they have crept upward again, you can let them fall, as if they are melting a little into the mattress. Notice your hands. If your fingers are curled with tension, you can loosen them, letting the palms rest open or gently folded. Notice your belly. You don't have to hold it in. You can let it move freely with the breath. If you want, you can imagine your breath syncing not perfectly but softly with the planet's breath. On your inhale, you take in oxygen, a gift of photosynthesis and time. On your exhale, you return carbon dioxide, a seed for future growth. In and out, like a quiet exchange with the world that holds you. And if thoughts appear, you can treat them like passing weather. A thought is just a cloud. It forms, it drifts, it changes shape, it dissolves. Sometimes anxious thoughts want you to grip them, to solve them, to argue with them. But tonight you can choose a different approach. You can let them float. You can let them be part of the atmosphere of your mind, moving through without needing to be held. Even if you forget everything I've said, your body will continue to breathe. Even if you stop listening, the planet will continue its cycles. That steadiness can be a kind of comfort you don't have to earn, so you are safe to relax, you are safe to drift. You're safe to let sleep come in any way it wants. As we move forward, we will allow the information to become even gentler, more rhythmic, more like a lullaby of recurring ideas. But for now, you can rest inside this connection, this sense of being part of something calm and continuous. Take a slow breath in, as if you are breathing in cool night air from that imagined hillside, and let it out, as if you are exhaling into a wide, quiet sky. And if you are still awake, you can keep listening. And if you are not, you can let the words become a soft blur, like moonlight on water. If you're still awake, you're doing beautifully, without having to do anything at all. You can let your body keep sinking into the bed, as if the mattress is gently learning your shape and supporting it more and more. You can let your breathing happen the way it wants to happen. No special pattern required, just the simple, steady exchange, like a small light that never goes out. And if you've been drifting in and out, catching a sentence here and there, that's exactly the right way to listen tonight. You do not need continuity. You do not need to remember. The purpose is rest. The science is only a quiet companion, like a soft lamp in the corner of a room. Now, very gently, we can let the learning soften into something more rhythmic. We've spoken about how Earth breathes through cycles, through exchange and return, through green leaves and sunlight, through oceans meeting sky, through clouds forming and dissolving, through soil and stone taking their time, and the more you sit with it, the more the idea becomes simple. Exchange, balance, return. You might even notice that your own breathing follows those same three words. You take in, you adjust, you let go, in a steady loop that keeps you safe through the night. So now we'll begin to drift into a slower phase, where the information becomes lighter, more repeated, more like a gentle rocking. Let's start with a calm recap, not as a summary you have to memorize, but as a lullaby you can float on. There is the green inhale. Plants and tiny ocean life take in carbon dioxide, they drink in light, they build sugars, they release oxygen. That is a kind of quiet inhale spread out across forests and fields and sunlit water. And there is the returning exhale. Living things use oxygen to release the stored energy in those sugars. Their cells do their quiet work. Warmth is made, movement is made, life continues. Carbon dioxide returns to the air not as loss but as part of the loop. And there is the water breath. Water lifts into the sky as vapor. It gathers into clouds. It returns as rain, as mist, as dew, as snow, rising and falling again and again. Green inhale, quiet exhale, water breath. If you only remember those three phrases, that is more than enough. And if you remember none of them, that is also fine. You can let them wash over you the way you might let waves wash over your feet, retreating without taking anything from you. Now, to make this even gentler, You can imagine those cycles as a slow, steady motion around the planet. Inhale, where leaves are catching light. Exhale, where living cells are using energy. Moist breath, where water is lifting and returning. And each of these is happening all the time in different places, overlapping, layering, like soft music where no single instrument needs to be followed. You can let the rhythm settle you. In and out, rise and fall, exchange, balance, return. Now let's step into a calm visualization, one that carries these ideas without making you think too hard about them. Imagine you are drifting above a forest canopy at dusk, not flying in a sharp way, not moving quickly, more like floating, like a leaf on slow air. The treetops below are a textured surface, a living blanket of deep greens and shadowed shapes. The last light of the day is gentle, making everything softer. You can feel the temperature cooling slightly. You can feel the air becoming calmer. Some birds are settling. The forest is becoming quieter, one small sound at a time. As you drift above, you can think of the leaves below you as quiet light catchers. During the day they were taking in carbon dioxide, doing their calm work with sunlight, building sugars, releasing oxygen. Now, as the light fades, that strong building slows, but the forest does not stop being alive. Cells keep breathing, trees keep drawing water, the soil keeps working, the whole forest is still in exchange, still in motion, just with a different tempo. You can rest in that thought. Even when the day ends, the cycle continues. Even when your mind slows, your body continues. Even when the world seems still, exchange continues. Now let yourself drift lower, not down into the forest, but close enough to sense it, as if your floating body can feel the forest's coolness rising. There's a smell in this imagined air, that soft, earthy scent of plants and soil. A hint of dampness, a hint of resin. It's not strong, just present, like a memory. And as you breathe in, you can picture your inhale meeting the forest's exhale, and your exhale meeting the forest's inhale. Not in a perfect one-to-one way, but in the sense that you're both part of the same shared atmosphere. The same gentle pool of air. You might ask yourself, without needing an answer, how many journeys the air has taken before it reached you, through how many leaves, over how many rivers, across how many miles of sea. The question can float and then fade. Now, still drifting, you can allow the scene to change slowly. The way dreams change. The forest gives way to open water. You are gliding over the ocean at night. The surface below you is dark and softly moving like a vast sleeping animal, but peaceful, not threatening. Moonlight paints a pale path across the waves. The horizon is wide. The sky is bigger here and the stars feel closer. The sound of the ocean is steady and repeating, the gentlest kind of repetition. Waves arrive, then let go, arrive, then let go, like breathing, like a mantra. And at the surface of the ocean, a quiet exchange is happening. Carbon dioxide can dissolve into seawater. Oxygen can dissolve too. Wind stirs the surface, mixing the top layer. It's not a dramatic event, not something you'd see in a single glance. It's more like the slow trading of tiny invisible coins, molecule by molecule, over and over, across the whole sea. The ocean takes in, the ocean gives back. And beneath the surface, the water moves in slow currents, carrying heat and nutrients and dissolved gases, linking places that never meet in any other way. A slow circulation, a patient turning. You can let that patience soothe you. Nothing is demanded quickly. Everything moves with time. And far below in the dark, the ocean holds its own quietness, while near the top in sunlight during the day, tiny drifting phytoplankton do their light-catching work, releasing oxygen that eventually joins the air you breathe. Even if you never see them, they are there. Tiny sun catchers, quiet helpers, part of the planet's breath. Now let the ocean scene soften again. You drift upward, as if you are rising on a gentle current of air. You drift into clouds, not thick storm clouds, not anything dramatic, just soft, calm clouds, the kind that look like blankets or pillows from below. Inside them, everything is muted. Sound is softer. Movement is slower. The light, if there is any, is diffused, gentle, like a lamp behind fabric. In this cloud space, you can feel the water breath more directly. Water vapor has cooled, condensing into tiny droplets, millions upon millions of small beads suspended in air, not falling yet, not heavy enough, just floating together, held by the delicate balance of air currents and droplet size. This is one of the quietest miracles of ordinary physics. Water changing form, gathering, waiting, and when the time is right, the droplets will merge and rain will fall in a soft return to the ground and sea. But for now, you are simply inside the cloud, in the calm pause, where nothing has to happen quickly. If you find your mind still thinking, you can give it a simple phrase, something easy to repeat, something that feels like a rocking chair. Exchange, balance, return. Exchange, a balance, return. You can say it in your mind like a whisper, or you can let me whisper it for you in the background of your breath. Exchange, balance, return. Now, if you like, we can weave those words with the gentle science again, in the simplest way. Plants take in carbon dioxide, plants release oxygen. Living cells use oxygen. Living cells release carbon dioxide. Water rises as vapor. Water returns as rain. Oceans trade gases with the air. Soils hold carbon, then return it. Rocks store carbon, then release it slowly through deep processes. In and out, rise and fall. Exchange, balance, return. You don't need to hold the full complexity. Complex systems are made of simple steps repeated. Tonight you can let it be simple. And each time you hear a repeated phrase, you can let your muscles relax a little more, as if the repetition is a signal to the body that it is safe now. Safe to stop scanning, safe to stop planning, safe to let sleep do its quiet work. If you want, do a small body check-in, very gentle. Notice your forehead, smooth, soft. Notice your eyes, heavy, quiet. Notice your jaw, unclenched. Notice your shoulders dropping, notice your hands resting, notice your belly, moving easily with the breath. Notice your legs, warm and still, and if any part feels tense, you do not have to force it to loosen. You can simply imagine warm light touching it, like a hand resting there, offering permission. Now let's return to a slow, dreamy loop of imagery, because imagery helps the mind let go. Picture a single leaf in the sunlight. It is still. The wind barely moves it. Light rests on its surface. Inside, chlorophyll catches that light. Carbon dioxide enters through tiny openings. Water arrives through veins. Sugars are built. Oxygen's released. Quiet work. Green inhale. Now picture the same leaf at night. The sunlight is gone. Photosynthesis pauses. But the leaf is still alive. Inside, cells continue their gentle respiration. They use oxygen. They release carbon dioxide. The plant continues steady and quiet. Returning exhale. Now picture a warm ocean surface. Wind brushes it. Tiny ripples form. At the boundary between air and water, molecules move. Some dissolve. Some escape. The ocean and sky speak without words. Ocean inhale. Ocean return. Now picture a cloud forming. Invisible vapor cools, droplets appear, the cloud grows soft and full. It drifts slowly, water breath, water return, and then rain falling gently over land. Not a storm, just a calm, steady rain. The kind that makes everything smell fresh, the kind that encourages sleep, exchange, balance, return. If you're listening closely, you might notice how these ideas begin to feel less like facts and more like a rhythm, and that is exactly what we want tonight. Because rhythm is soothing, it gives the mind something to lean on without needing to think. So now we can use a few gentle mantra-like phrases that carry the science in a sleepy way. Air and leaf, sea and sky, cloud and rain, soil and root, light and sugar, in and out, over and over, air and leaf, sea and sky, cloud and rain, soil and root, light and sugar. If you want, you can let those phrases match your breath. Inhale and think, air and leaf. Exhale and think, sea and sky. Inhale, cloud and rain. Exhale, soil and root, but only if that feels comfortable. If it feels like effort, you can let it go. The repetition can be mine, and your job can be rest. Now let's add a few soft questions, the kind that do not require an answer, the kind that simply open a door and then let it gently close. What if the air is kinder than we notice? What if cycles are a kind of comfort? What if the planet's steady exchanges are like a lullaby that has been playing your whole life? What happens if you stop trying to hold everything and let yourself be held instead? You can let those questions fade into quiet, like words written on water. And as we continue, you might notice that the sentences themselves become softer, less information-rich, more like a calm hum. That is intentional, because the closer we get to sleep, the less your mind needs new ideas. Familiar ideas are best. Repeating ideas, gentle ideas. So let's keep the cycle simple. Green inhale, quiet exhale, water breath, ocean exchange, deep time, return, green inhale, quiet exhale, water breath, ocean exchange, deep time, return, again and again. And while those words drift, you can imagine the planet from a distance one more time, not as a sharp picture, but as a soft impression. A round world turning slowly, one side warmed by sunlight, the other resting in night, clouds drifting like slow thoughts, oceans dark and steady, forests catching light during the day, soils breathing quietly, rocks holding time, and around it all the atmosphere, thin and precious, moving in gentle currents, a breathing world, a resting world, and you are inside it, safe. Now, it may help to return again to the immediate sensation of your own breath, because it is the easiest place for the mind to settle. Feel the inhale, the tiny pause, the exhale, the tiny pause, inhale, pause, exhale, pause, nothing forced, nothing held. If thoughts come, let them come. If thoughts go, let them go. You do not have to follow them. You can let them drift like clouds while you remain in the quiet sky behind them. If you are still awake, you can keep floating with these loops. If you are half asleep, you can let the words blur. And if you're fully asleep, you won't be hearing any of this. And that is perfect. I'll keep the rhythm simple now, like a steady rocking. Exchange, balance, return, air and leaf, sea and sky, cloud and rain, in and out, again and again, and with each repetition you can sink a little deeper into comfort, as if sleep is a gentle current carrying you. No need to hurry, no need to understand, no need to stay awake, just the quiet breath of you and the quiet breath of the planet, together, If you're still awake, you can let that togetherness feel simple. Nothing grand, just quiet companionship. Your breath and the planet's breath moving in the same wide atmosphere, like two gentle rhythms that never need to compete. You can let your attention soften again, the way eyelids soften when they're ready to close, the way a hand relaxes when it no longer needs to hold anything. Notice the air at your nostrils just for a moment. The faint coolness as it comes in, the slightly warmer feel as it leaves. That small sensory detail can be like a thread you can hold, lightly without pulling. And if your mind slips away from it, that's fine. You can return whenever you like, or not return at all. Tonight we've wandered through many layers of Earth's gentle breathing, and now we can let it all become quieter. Less like a lesson, more like a lullaby made of repeating truths, because the deeper you drift, the more your mind prefers what is familiar. So we'll keep it familiar. Green inhale, quiet exhale, water breath, ocean exchange, deep time, return, and you can let those words arrive and leave like slow waves. Green inhale. You can imagine a field at dawn, not bright, not sharp, just softly lit. Dew on grass, a faint coolness in the air, leaves and blades of grass opening themselves to light that hasn't fully arrived yet. The day beginning gently, plants preparing in their own silent way to catch light. Quiet exhale. You can imagine the same field at night, not empty, not dead, simply resting, the plant still alive. The soil still alive, the tiny workers beneath the surface still doing their slow recycling, the air above holding the day's warmth for a while, then letting it fade. Water breath. You can picture a lake under a calm sky, a thin mist rising from its surface in the morning as water turns to vapor. Then later, when the air cools, you can picture moisture gathering again, becoming fog or dew, rising and returning. Ocean exchange. You can picture a wide shoreline, the waves arriving and retreating, the wind carrying salt and moisture. The surface where air and water meet, trading invisible molecules without a sound. Deep time. You can picture a stone in your palm. Cool, calm, patient. And you can let it remind you that change does not have to be fast to be real, that cycles can be long and still be steady. Return, always return. Return of the tide, return of rain, return of breath, return of seasons, return of calm. If your thoughts are still noisy, you don't have to fight them. You can let them be like a radio playing in another room. Not your job tonight. Your job is rest, and rest can be passive, like being carried. So let's make this even more easy. Let's sink into repetition, the way a lullaby repeats a melody until the mind stops trying to follow and simply floats. Air and leaf, sea and sky, cloud and rain, soil and root. Light and sugar, in and out, air and leaf, sea and sky. Cloud and rain, soil and root, light and sugar, in and out. You can let your breathing match it if it wants to, or you can let it simply be background music while you drift elsewhere. Now imagine you're holding a small cup of warm tea, even if you are not. Imagine the warmth travelling into your hands, the scent rising faintly, steam drifting up in a thin ribbon. That little thread of vapour is a tiny version of the water cycle, a miniature sky in your room, water lifting into air, invisible, then invisible again as it mixes. The world repeats itself at every scale, softly. A cloud is millions of tiny droplets. A droplet is something you can hold on a fingertip. A fingertip is something you can rest on a blanket. A blanket is something that holds you, and being held is what you're allowed to feel right now. If you like, you can picture the warm light again, the gentle lamplight moving through your body, It touches the top of your head, and the scalp relaxes. It touches your forehead, and it smooths. It touches behind your eyes, and everything softens. It touches your jaw, and the muscles let go. It touches your throat, and it feels open, easy. It touches your shoulders, and they drop. It touches your arms, and they rest heavier, like they've finally decided they don't need to be ready. It touches your chest, and the breath moves without being watched. It touches your belly, and it makes room for gentleness. It touches your legs, and they become still. It touches your feet, and it settles there, warm and quiet. And in the middle of all that softness, your breathing continues. Inhale, exhale, a small safe cycle in your own body. Now, we can fold in one more comforting truth from the planet's breathing, and then let it fade. Every breath you take is part of a shared atmosphere. Every exhale you release is not wasted. It becomes part of a larger flow. Every inhale you receive is not new, not isolated. It has a history. Air has been places. Air has touched leaves. Air has skimmed ocean surfaces. Air has carried clouds. And now, for a moment, it is touching you. Sometimes it helps to think of the atmosphere as something like a gentle scarf wrapped around the planet, always moving, always mixing, always soft. You are inside that scarf. You're inside that shared air. You do not have to earn your place there. You were born into it, and you can rest in it. If you'd like a dreamy image, you can picture yourself lying in bed as if your room is a small boat again, floating on an invisible sea of air. The boat is steady. The sea is calm. You don't have to steer. You don't have to row. You simply float, rising and falling with the breath. In, out, in, out. And because your mind might still be curious, it might still ask very softly, what is it about cycles that feels comforting? Maybe it's that cycles promise return. A moment of tension can return to ease. A moment of wakefulness can return to sleep. A busy day can return to night. A dry spell can return to rain. A long winter can return to spring. Nothing has to be permanent in its current form. Everything can move and change and come back around. And that truth can settle the nervous system in a quiet way, like a hand resting over the heart. Now we can keep the words even simpler. Inhale, exhale, green inhale, quiet exhale, water breath. Return, inhale, exhale, double inhale, quiet exhale, water breath, return. If you find yourself still awake, you might gently smile at that. Not because you have to, just because it's a kind idea that the world has a rhythm you can lean on, and if you find yourself slipping, you can slip. You don't have to hold on to the meaning. You can let the meaning dissolve, leaving only softness. Let's drift through the three landscapes again, with less detail this time, like revisiting a dream scene. Forest at dusk, leaves darkening, air cooling. A quiet exchange between leaf and sky. Ocean at night, waves repeating, wind brushing the surface. A quiet exchange between sea and air. Cloud drifting, soft and muted. A quiet exchange between vapor and droplet. Forest, ocean, cloud, forest, ocean, cloud. And each time you hear the sequence, you can let your muscles relax just a little more, the way a knot loosens when you stop pulling on it. You might notice your breathing has become quieter, or you might not. Either is fine. You might notice your thoughts have become less sharp, more like soft shapes, or you might not. Either is fine. There is no requirement here, only permission. Now we can begin to let tonight's journey taper toward a gentle ending, not a sudden stir, more like a candle slowly burning down, the light becoming warmer and smaller until it is simply darkness and comfort. So here is a calm summary in a few quiet strokes, like drawing with a soft pencil. Earth breathes through cycles, plants and air, trading carbon dioxide and oxygen, water and sky, rising as vapor and returning as rain, ocean and wind, exchanging gases at the surface, moving heat and life in slow currents, stone and time, storing and releasing carbon across ages, patiently, steadily. All of this can be true and still feel peaceful, because it is not a story of emergency tonight. It is a story of continuity, of systems that repeat, of patterns that return, and you are allowed to rest inside that. If you want, you can take one last gentle breath with me, not as a task, just as a shared moment. In, softly, as if you're breathing in cool night air. Out, slowly, as if you're releasing the whole day into a wide, quiet sky. And now, you can let go of even that. You do not need to hold anything in your mind. You do not need to hold any facts. You do not need to remember any terms. You can let everything drift away, as if the words are small boats you watched from shore. And now they are out on the water, getting smaller and smaller. The planet will keep breathing. Your body will keep breathing. Cycles will keep turning quietly, patiently, and you can simply sleep. If you are still awake, you can listen to the softness in the spaces between sentences. If you are half asleep, you can let the voice become part of the room like a distant fan, like faraway waves. If you're asleep, then you're exactly where you need to be. So, gently, good night. May your breathing be easy. May your mind feel unburdened. May your body feel safe and heavy and warm. And if you wake again, even briefly, you can remember this quiet comfort. In and out, exchange and return, a steady rhythm that does not ask you to perform, just a slow tide you can float on. Good night, softly. And whenever you're ready, you can let everything fade into the kind of silence that feels like being held.